What does it take to be more honorable than those around us? Because that's how Jabez was described in 1 Chronicles chapter 4, and that may have affected his prayer life. Good morning, this is Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Tuesday. In this list of genealogies in 1 Chronicles chapter 4, there is a pause, maybe a parenthetical insert, about one such man in this gigantic list of names and descendants. The writer begins by telling us that Jabez was more honorable than his brother. Now, that could be a description for a whole host of reasons, but listen to his prayer. In 1 Chronicles 4:9, he says, "Now Jabez was more honorable than his brothers, and Jabez called on the Lord of Israel, saying, 'Oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory.'" Some translations call it his borders or his coasts, but he simply asked for God to help me spread out. This doesn't necessarily mean to acquire more land or more material possessions. I'm sure in the westward expansion of the 1800s, that may have happened. They wanted a homestead, they wanted a large ranch territory, maybe to graze their herds, to farm, etc. But that's not what Jabez is talking about here. Perhaps for Jabez, he was asking for a raise, a promotion, maybe a bigger and better life. And why not ask when we're dealing with the sovereign God of the universe? 1 Corinthians 2 and verse 9 says, "Eye has not seen, nor ear heard, nor have entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for those who love him." Do we really believe what the Bible says about God's ability and his desire for us? One thing that Jabez knew was if his territory was enlarged, he would have even greater opportunities. What great things could God do through me if only I would ask? If I had a greater influence, I could share the gospel with more people. If I had a larger territory, I would meet and influence a greater crowd of the people around me for the Lord. If we had a larger border around us, we could find more things to do for God. Maybe we need to pray this prayer and see what God could do in my life. Perhaps the Apostle Paul prayed this when he was sitting in Antioch teaching, "Lord, increase my borders." And the next thing you know, he's going to the uttermost parts of the earth. Maybe Philip prayed this prayer when he was preaching that revival in Samaria, and the Lord said, "All right, let's go down to Gaza where you can meet that Ethiopian eunuch." You should not pray this prayer if you're not ready to do what God has for you, those greater things that he is planning. We once prayed that a lady would sell us a little more property around our church, and she ended up giving us over 10 acres. And of course, we purchased some more property even besides that. But what if we prayed, "God, just enlarge my territory for today"? Maybe we'd find some encounters that we never imagined, or resources that we could use for God. There's more and more that God could give us if we only ask. No, noble Jabez was not greedy. He wanted to be used in a greater way. And he wanted God's purposes to be fulfilled in his life and all around where he lived.